Hi, welcome back to Currency. I've done a bunch of episodes of this, and I'm gonna keep making other ones. And I have arrived at this episode today at this time, this thing that's being recorded. I want to do a podcast called The Past. That's what I thought about. I want to do a live podcast, but it never gets recorded live because the only episodes you see, it's like you see it when they're in the past, or you come to the show to see it. It's the only way to see the past. It would never be broadcast live at the point that it got really big and whatever. And I don't know, I feel like I don't really care or stop myself from speaking of things in terms of like, oh, this will be really big. And maybe that's a character flaw. It's just that I don't see why it's necessary when it is already not big, when it is already not, to talk about it as if it is lowly. I mean, that's what everybody does, promotional-wise. Like, wow, you made the greatest cup of coffee or whatever in the movie Elf. Like, world's greatest cup of coffee, same thing. This is the number one podcast in the Earth. Planets are really... I like the outer space. I like outer space, and I don't really like Neil deGrasse Tyson. And these are some of my opinions, but like, you know, the thing about history is that it's like it should be decentralized the way that Hollywood was over the last 20 years. History should be destandardized. We need more pseudo history because history, it's like all those academic stuff, maybe that's next to go. Because we can look at Hollywood like a real example of something that disintegrated. And what was it that disintegrated? Like some secure environment, some standardized environment. In that case, that particular flavor of standardized environment was like acting. And acting disintegrated because we all realized like we kind of all see the actor in ourselves. It's kind of like everything is a little bit of a performance, and stuff that happens on a lower scale, like at your house, is less a performance. I know it's it's maybe just too exhausting for people to view it that way or think of it that way. Or people be like, shut the fuck up. Not everything is a performance. I don't know, maybe they wouldn't. Everyone would be like this. Sometimes I go bipolar, like I speak for everybody, and then the other times I speak for myself. And that's another duality that people don't really speak to a lot. Everybody just talks about liberals versus conservatives to get out their theory just because, like, oh, this is the standard way of talking about theories, like politics and governances, who gets to govern who gets to implement rules, who's under the law in what areas. Because it's like, not everybody is above the law, except that in certain areas, some people are above the law. Like if you're a policeman and like you can drunk drive, basically, and you're not going to get pulled over for it because like you're already a policeman, you're good. I mean, some people can get away with things that other people can't, like Kobe Bryant will get more foul calls because he's the greatest, because he's the legend. And legends die. And people say when a legend dies, they're like, legends never die. And what they should say is legends die, because what are you saying? Like they made an album for Juice WRLD after he died, compiling the whatever last of his songs that he still made that he didn't release, which he apparently has 4,000 of, that like they keep, oh, here's another Juice WRLD song, or here's another XXX Tentacion song. Like, oh shit, I guess he's still alive somewhere. He just dropped this one from heaven or hell. Well, probably from hell. If it's heaven and hell, like you think XXX and Juice WRLD are in heaven after all the drugs that they did and the songs they sang, the words they chose, their choices. After Juice WRLD's choices, you think that he's in heaven? They made an album for Juice WRLD called Legends Never Die, and it should have been called Legends Die. Because, are you saying he wasn't a legend? Right? I mean, Because he died, so I mean, legends die. Goodbye. They end. Real, like, legends, like myth and lore, they go away. They get put on the back burner, they get put back there. Goodbye. Legends, goodbye. Some lore gets replaced by better lore. But lore is all, mythology and myths. Let me get the misses. Oh, wow, good one. Wow, really good. Wow, the myth is. Wow, let me get the myth is. For misses, that isn't even my wife that I don't have. She's a myth. That's why I brought it up. That's my wife. Let me get the myth is. See, I turned it into a little ditty that I'm going to turn into a song later. But the thing is that, like, lore and folklore, those are like fake stories. I forget what I started off talking about, but they're like they're stories, and they're not standardized. Like, we need a more standardized environment, like, for stories. So we have the example of Hollywood where it went away, like, and that what disintegrated with that was like celebrities, or like being an actor, because we all found the actor within ourselves. I was trying to recollect. We all found the actor within ourselves acting, because we realized, like, oh, there doesn't need to be a centralized location for acting. That's why Hollywood it's like, what are the movies that they're making now? It's like, movies are better when they're independent. Like, movies are anything. Anybody can make one that's just as good as, like, the ones that they make that are blockbusters. Just the blockbuster ones that come out of Hollywood are all shit now. So it's like, movies went indie, like, universally, like, but like it's dead, or it died, whatever. Standardized movie making, but it has to do with, like, and their TV shows are starting to do the same thing. But it kind of has to do with, like, acting as a skill is kind of something that all of us can see in ourselves, because the internet made it accessible for everybody to act on their own TV shows, like I'm doing now. Like, this is acting that I'm doing, because it is relatively more acting than me talking in regular life. So, like, I have to secure the environment, and this is a show, whether or not I like it. And it's like, what makes it real versus what makes it a show is really can really get at something very special if it's really a blend of nonfiction and fiction, like the movie Kids. And I saw a documentary about the movie Kids that came out in 1995, directed by Larry Clark, screenplay and script written by Harmony Korine. That movie. It's about New York City street kids, but, like, it's a movie where they went in and they wrote a script for, like, New York City street kids that was just the same as what they would have already been doing, in case you haven't seen the movie. But, I mean, basically just go out and see it. But I saw a documentary about it, and I was surprised to find out that the documentary about it was as good, if not better, than the movie, because it documented the kids that were in the movie, that you never heard from any of them again, because it was just, like, sort of a random occurrence. But what's interesting about it is that they were able to make this standardized movie, like, commercial movie, sent to the masses about a group of people, like New York City street kids that skateboard, that they should have never been televised. They should have never been on record. Like, it's a group of people that goes under the radar and should be it would be improbable that they would reach the surface at all. They should be invisible. They shouldn't gain any visibility, this group of people, in any regular set of circumstances. But, like, I was watching the documentary, and, like, Siskel and Ebert was giving a review of the movie Kids when it came out, and he said, like, it has authenticity that is completely blows other fiction films out of the water. And what's interesting is that he called it fiction, which is, like, I guess it is fiction, but you watch the movie, a lot of people thought it was a documentary. but it wasn't. It had a script. He called it fiction, which I guess is what makes him so great. Is like, oh, he distinguished it as, because technically it is fiction, but like it's kind of a lie to call it fiction. He's such a critic to call it that, you know, and to call it, be like, oh, there's so much authenticity for being a fiction film. It's basically the most authentic a fiction film could ever be, because it's basically nonfiction, and it's like the best movie ever, one of the best movies of all time. You watch it, you just recognize the greatness of the film just because of the authenticity. And I hope I'm not saying, I'm saying that is what I do, I guess. Something like that. That's me. But I'm saying, like, it's nonfiction and fiction. I'm just talking about, like, when you get at the heart of trying to standardize something that should be unstandardized, like me just recording myself in a kitchen, like, it doesn't, there's nothing special about it unless it materializes, and I don't have the energy of those New York City street border skater kids. I mean, they're like so much more interesting than me. And so I'm just bringing up this example of like, it's so, that story is just so interesting, that movie. I'm just so psyched about it. I love kids. I love them. I love the movie. Because, and like, they really were just a bunch of kids, and a couple of them tried to make it big in Hollywood, and they just like had no chance because they're just all that they are kids as defined by this movie. And I want to go. I want to leave Columbus. I want to go to Los Angeles. But basically, I'm talking about when you standardize something that is otherwise unstandardized. But the documentary called We Were Once Kids, about the actors that were in the movie, was just as good because they interviewed them, and then they're just as authentic as they are in the movie. Of course, like, that's the only way that movie has the magic that it does, is because all the people in it are just like entirely authentic, and they're just like have an easy time being on screen. But they're all actors, and they're all actors already just playing themselves, and you have to characterize yourself in order to be interesting and materializable. In order to materialize, you have to be part of an identity group, and those kids, they attracted Larry Clark, the director, and Harmony Korine, because they had an identity. They were all so much about skateboarding, and they just had, and they were such a tight-knit group, probably more so, probably a rare, it was probably a rare occurrence of a group of people being that tight-knit a group. And they were bonded by their skateboarding. Like, skateboard was their symbol, the way the Christians would use a cross, basically. And that's the way that's the way we do it in this world. That's why it's hard. Is like, you have to find something to band together around. And Christians draw my ire because I don't like the convenience of what they, I mean, I don't like the pressure they put on the rest of the world. I feel like there should be a big world community, but what hinders us from doing that? Why do the New York City street kids have to sell out for like skateboarding in order to have an identity? They can't just come together in some other way. Well, I mean, I guess it's just evolution. I guess it's just like, it's better to be fake, so like you do need to have an identity, and you do need to characterize yourself. Like, people need to be, acting was more prestigious, and like, oh wow, the people that act, people in Hollywood, that was a bigger deal in a world that didn't see themselves to be actors, but now we all know that we have to be relevant and we have to perform all the time, especially in the internet age, when shit is more and more recorded. That means all the regular people that don't even record themselves we all have to keep adapting with the times. We have to stay relevant with like language and our looks at least a little bit in order to like be alive, like be visible, be seen by people. And that, it's requiring more acting out of any regular person on any given day. And it's kind of like the level of regular acting that is required out of a person to stay relevant in the world kind of rose above the threshold of like acting in Hollywood, to the point that like we don't see it as rare, or it's like that we broke it down as just, it's totally regular, natural thing to happen. It's just like nature getting rid of shit that's unnecessary, getting rid of waste, is like us disintegrating Hollywood and like celebrity, like It's just the same thing as when Sears goes out of business, where better services arrive, or just everybody does that. You can get this shit that you get at Sears everywhere, including at your own house. Basically, everybody's house became Sears because of the internet. So goodbye, Sears disintegrates. Disintegration, no breathing, don't give a damn if I don't go to Sears again. Yeah, take that, Sears. I wonder if... Are there still a Sears? I think all of the Sears are gone. There's maybe one Sears, like there's one Blockbuster, and people still go to it on Black Friday. Go to Sears, folks. Whatever. I mean, go to Sears. That's all I'm saying. I have the greatest prize of all. It's a Tim Hortons medium black coffee. That's the greatest prize of all. And I'm very excited to drink it, but what we need to disintegrate is history. The same way that we disintegrated the idea of acting and celebrity, we need to get rid of history because that is way too fucking standardized. And apparently it only arose in like the 14th and 15th century. So it was like the 13 and 1400s. And for God's sake, like, why the fuck do we have to say centuries as a different number than what they are? Give me a fucking break. People are making shit up and they're confusing your sense of history. The word history comes from like a French word histoire, which means a story or a tale. And I didn't look up the exact etymology of it, but it's like history came from a word meaning story before all these people came along and decided to make like standardized history, where it's like, no, we're making hypotheses about history, and no, we're really going to lay down the law of like, this is what happened in history. Like, we're going to take facts into account. Facts. We're going to look at documents that somebody wrote propagandizing their own mission or their own nation. We're going to look at these documents that are fact, even though they're all like propaganda. And we're going to determine, okay, this is definitely what happened historically. But all these people came together to make history a thing only in the last, like 600 or 700 years ago. They started to do that. Before that, history was just a tale. And it's the same thing happened with Disney. Like, Walt Disney came along. He standardized all of the tales, all of the lore that there was, and made it a thing rather than... because otherwise, those New York City street kids, all of the shit that they did would have just existed in myth around the New York City area and just to themselves. And it might have been a more organic thing if there weren't like capitalists that came along and made it a capitalized their effort, materialized it, brought it to everybody, like commercialized it. And so you watch the documentary, and some of those kids are like, a couple of them are like, I wish the movie never happened because it led to two of the main people in the movie ended up dying young. You might say as a result of the movie. I mean, no, I mean, not because of the movie, but they got into a lifestyle of like, we're going to be big stars. And they found out that that wasn't there for them, and they both died. Basically, one of them died by suicide. Another one died basically by suicide. If you overdose on heroin or coke, it's like a suicide. If you got to that point that you're overdosing, you're like, I could overdose doing this any day if you're like that addicted to it. So that's basically a suicide. But like, history is standard. We need to destandardize it. Like Disney collected all of that shit under one capitalist corporation called Disney. He collected all of the fairy tales, where it's like they existed as disintegrated before. They weren't standardized. And so like, that's what I do. If I wasn't recording myself, it would just be like, well, I mean, it just wouldn't be... It's more standardized the more that you record yourself or whatever. It's more a performance the more you record yourself. It is still more like you have to act more on camera than off, regardless. But like, that's the thing, is that it becomes more of a performance, and it's performative rather than just a real, authentic. When something is real, it just doesn't gain any it doesn't gain any traction, and it doesn't make any money. If it's really real, nobody cares about it. So people are like, I just want what's real for years and years. Like my generation, that's like the trope of it that they say online. That older people not in our generation, they stereotype us falsely by saying like, they just want what's real or whatever. All the shit that anybody says about any kids is all a lie. It's like the kids are doing this. They're not, because it's just the popular kids are doing that. And then like 75% of the kids like hate the popular kids, or they're just like, that's a stupid trend, depending on the trend. And like 6, 7, we're all supposed to have positive opinions about it. I'm going after it. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of fucking 6, 7. And what's annoying about it is a society that defers to children so easily over the dumbest shit, that we're going to have this dictated to us by like, oh, you know what's interesting in the world? 6, 7, because kids are really into it. A society that gives a fuck about the phenomenons of children over like, and then we shit on Elon Musk every day because he wants to go to Mars. I don't really like it. I don't like that. Not that 6, 7 in and of itself is a problem, but what's so great about a bunch of kids that are whatever, unstandardized children, but they're forming an identity group around, like the 6, 7 is like a temporary trend identity, superficial, that pops for a minute, this pop culture, but like popularity is the thing that I'm attacking. What I don't like that like boomers are all about. The boomers will speak about my generation like the kids are, or any generation, Gen Z, like kids are all dancing on TikTok or whatever. They're not, because it's like the popular kids are, and then the other 98% of kids probably wouldn't want to do that. I believe what percentage of kids are actually recording TikToks? It's not that high. I don't think, maybe it's like 20%. The kids are saying this. No, don't pay any attention to that. But like the older generations, the same as they do for Santa Claus to kids or whatever. It's all a lie. Whatever the media is making about what children are doing, it's just a bullshit story, same as any CNN or Fox News story or local news. They're embellishing it, or they're propagandizing it for some sort of agenda they have, or just to be like, we have the authority. See, kids don't make narratives, TV people do, and TV people are all adults. So we're just gonna, like, kids are doing this bullshit thing, and that's silly. So maybe in some senses we should give more a voice to kids. They should have more power of narrative, but they have more power of narrative now than they ever did. Same as parents make up Santa Claus, and it's entirely like adults put images of him out everywhere, and they create Santa Claus themed amusement parks and write songs about Santa, all to put on this ruse for children. But it's like the ruse is for the adults, because they make money by selling Santa's merch everywhere and putting him on whatever it is, putting him on decorative shit at Christmas. Christmas is a bit, that's the knock on it. It's like, it's all commercial. It's, what I don't like about Christmas is the standardization, because capitalism should happen year round. Buying gifts should happen all the time, but we have to have this guy. It's to mirror the Jesus world we live in, where it's like, oh, we have to have this guy that we're emulating. There has to be a guy who takes all of the blame for it in order for it to exist at all. In order for us to give gifts, we need somebody else like to take the blame, like Santa Claus. And Santa Claus is just as much for adults as he is for kids, because without adults there would be no Santa Claus. They're the ones that create the myth or say the lie to kids. And like, what's significant about that myth to me is just the dividing line that it creates between the people who know and the people that don't, where it's like that dividing line is so like real. Even though it's not like technically somebody, usually when a dividing line is that real between identity groups, Well, anytime it is, people are making money off of it. Because money is only found in, like, meaning. So, like, only at the point that you distinguish McDonald's to be its own entity or its own thing, is it able to make a lot of money in comparison to the shit that's around it, like the parking lot or just the air, like something that doesn't materialize into a restaurant doesn't make any money. You have to be fake and make a McDonald's. Like, I'm losing my train of thought because I keep going onto different branches or whatever. Like, it doesn't... the dividing line between... when there's that much of a dividing line, when you have to distinguish an environment, like standardize an environment that much, that's when something good is happening. Or something like... something that's going to make you money and other people are going to see it. It's going to gain visibility and notoriety. I would say that those are good things. And like the good things are pretty much all fake because they require you to draw borders around something. It's like the borders aren't real. Like the border between Mexico and America and between America and Canada that distinguish America, those borders aren't real, but what we do is we invest a lot of resources into maintaining them because we understand the benefits of what happens when we make it real, when you're willing to turn something fake into something real. Like, what people crave is really high levels of fakeness. They don't crave reality, because if they craved reality, everybody would just be hiking, and everybody in the world would be hiking in the woods. Everybody would be just like watching birds and whatever. You know, they wouldn't be on the internet consuming like fake shit or recording themselves trying to create fake shit. When you draw a line, what I'm saying, only at the point that you draw the lines for America does America become this, like, you have to secure the environment in order for it to be a materializable, visible thing. And that's what people do with history. They made it one narrative, but, like, you secure America, and then you can have, like, the US dollar. And basically, if America isn't a secure environment, if we can't maintain our borders, I believe the currency inflates. The currency inflates when the rest of the world perceives us to be insecure, more insecure than they thought we were. And the world is starting to wake up to the fact that Americans are kind of out batshit crazy, and we're not really like, we don't have it all together. Like, I think the world generally thinks that about us, but China and Russia are starting to move forward. Like, okay, whatever, fuck these bitches in America. We don't have to look to them for pop culture. We're doing our own music shows now. We're doing our own shit, and that's the real shit, just as much as whatever they do in America. America doesn't lead the way in all of this, like, acting and singing. But, like, America, likes to uphold that they were for a long time. And they still basically lead the way in a lot of these entertainment categories, but... that's like Santa is just as much for adults, and that's so that they can, some of them are able to make money off of him or whatever, but just that we need a guy the same as like Jesus does for regular life. What Jesus does for every day of the year. It's like we need somebody to blame for our actions or whatever. Like gift giving, we can't just give gifts all the time. Any day of the year, there has to be a guy that we blame, like Santa, or it's just weird how when there's one day for it, then there becomes this guy or this like myth, this guy that nobody sees, that nobody runs into, nobody has a real relationship to, but we all have a relationship to Santa, same as Jesus. Like nobody sees Jesus, we don't have a real relationship, but we all have a relationship because he's relevant every year. Jesus is, same as Santa, relevant every year. A guy that we place all the blame for gift giving should happen every day of the year. Jesus is the guy we place all the blame for our sins. Sinning should happen every day of the year. Or sinning should just be set free. We shouldn't have to judge people who sin. But we have a guy that people are like, there's a large group of people that make sin a big deal, make sin a real thing. Where it's like a lot of the rest of us would be fine just walking around like sinning, you know? But it makes it so that like, oh, I got really drunk, that's funny or whatever. it shouldn't be a thing. Sinning shouldn't be a problem. But because there's a guy that, like, I mean, there's a group of people that wants to keep the myth alive, keep the idea alive that we need to answer for our sins. We always need to learn lessons and whatever. And the surrounding world arises to accommodate that by making it that you're under the law in 100,000 different ways. Or they both inform each other. They both corroborate each other's stories, the world and the Christian world. And you get history, and basically history is to Christianity. Yeah, the adults create Santa, so they like that shit. But it's just like the myths, or whatever. Walt Disney standardized all those myths in a capitalistic way to capitalize all of it. We did the same thing with history. We made it a capital effort where we turned a term that was just a word for story or tale. It was just like a word, and then we made it this like institution, this big, not corporate, but what's the word? I mean, we made it an academic mainstay. And now there's all these historiographers, like history is this big important thing. Where 600, 700 years ago we didn't care about history, but we standardized it. We're like, and that's why they call it a social science, is like, which I didn't really understand for a long time. So history is a science because in order to create it, people have to formulate hypotheses about what happened historically. They have to collect a bunch of documents and basically come up with peer-reviewed research about this is what happened historically, and then somehow it has to be accepted. But the thing about history is that it's just one big, long narrative. I think what's more interesting about history would be... what would be more interesting is chronicling things rather than making it a story. Like if we cared more about the order that things happened, that would say something interesting about history. Because like, why did this event happen after this event happen after this event? Just the order is interesting from an evolutionary standpoint or any standpoint. That is a story, and that's a story all its own. But that's like the most authentic story that there is. If you're going to have one story for history, the story should just be about, which we have one story right now. What I don't like about it is that it's so, it's too like romantic, like it's beginning. I mean, it's all about Jesus. It's based around a guy. Like Jesus takes the blame for our past, for our sins, our transgressions, the historical things. I mean, like he takes for history because it's all within his timeline for one. Like it has to do with our sins, but he takes the blame just for the past, like, all the shit that we've done in the past is on his timeline already, so we don't have to worry about it. That a guy has to come along and take the blame for that. It shouldn't be like that. It should be disintegrated. We should get into pseudo-history. Conspiracy theories are more interesting than reality. The same as McDonald's and Wendy's and whatever is more interesting than... It makes more money than... Well, I mean, whatever it is. It provides a service. It gets ahead of the masses by, like, providing that service for everybody, all of those restaurants. And so they're more interesting than, like, if everybody on the earth was just killing their own cows. That wouldn't be a capitalized effort. But it's just kind of like, it's inevitable. I guess some man or some guy or some woman is going to come along and, like, collect all of these things under one roof, the same as Walt Disney did for the lore and for the myths. And it's usually a man because you have to go down in history and you're doing it in the wake of Jesus, the man that we've considered to be the most important. And that's the age that we live in. That's what it's defined by. We decided to define the age by a man. And so that's why it's a very patriarchal society and why it's usually a man that comes along and collects all this shit. But history came along, and it's like, we're going to collect all historical events under one name, the same as Walt Disney did with the fairy tales. And We're going to collect history under one name, one story. And it's not about, like, I'm saying history would be more interesting if it was just chronicling things, if it was just about the order, because that would be interesting. Why did this happen? And then 5 years later, this happened. That's a story all its own, but people don't care about that specifically. They care about, like, memorable moments like this war. World War II is better than the 7 Years' War just because it was more magnificent, you know? Just because it was bigger in scope, or whatever it is. The Roman Empire is way more interesting than other empires that came after it. I can't think of one, like the Songhai Empire or the empires that came after it. Like the Grecian Empire, Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, they're way more interesting than people that came after them for hundreds of years. So many people that came after them for hundreds of years are less interesting than Plato and Socrates. Whatever, like they're more memorable, and it's not about the order. It's not like they were more memorable, so then it led to this group of memorable people. History is just about some romantic, like us loving our favorite parts of it and men battling each other or whatever. Wars. It's about conquering in like patriarchal. All of the basically most of the recorded shit in history is like patriarchal, men fighting other men. That's because it is under the name of a single man and done in pursuit of being the best. Or like all these wars and shit is like what comprises so much of history, what we learn about from it. It's because it's like men, history is like 1000% patriarchal. And when women get remembered, it's like Joan of Arc, and she's remembered for being a military leader. Like, oh, she acted like a man, and that's why she goes down in history. Not, like Rosa Parks. She acted like a man to sit on that bus or whatever. Like, that's something a man. Why is this little girl acting like a man, like standing up for herself? Like, oh, let's remember her in history. The day we remember girls when Betsy Ross. It's like most people don't even know that Betsy Ross, not worldwide. She's not Mr. Worldwide or anything. Mrs. Worldwide is Betsy Ross, as it turns out, starting here today as prophesied by me, as postulated and proliferated by me. Postulated, proliferated, and prophesied. Betsy Ross is Mrs. Worldwide. Indisputable, undefeated, inarguable, undemonstratable, because she's gone. Rest in peace, Betsy. I love you, Betsy Ross. I hope you're up in heaven. I hope you're not with Juice WRLD and the other guy. XXX. Hopefully you're not in hell. Betsy Ross is smoking the fattest joint ever with Lucid Dreams and XXX in hell right now. And that is a fact. And Santa Claus. She's like talking about how she's like, how come Santa is just as much for adults as it is for kids? They're smoking a joint and passing it around. And they didn't have to light it. They just brought it out and then just lit on fire because that's the way that hell works. That's the way that hell works. That's how hell is. That's how hell gets. But I'm saying pseudo history. The next thing to go is like stop with this idea that there's one narrative. It's all anybody decides any narrative. If we were being rational about it, it would be interesting, but that would be more real, like the movie Kids, like where fiction meets nonfiction. It's like, well, just the complete reality. The best story is just like this is literally what happened in order, and then what does it mean that this happened after this? Because that has to mean something. But we like to ignore that entirely and just do like history and then make it this authoritarian thing where it's like, oh, the professors who get to talk about history, they know history. And I just think that all of that is bullshit. And there's other things that are bullshit in the same, like these academic things maybe are the next thing to go. Like education should be disintegrated. Math is really good. That one will probably last for a while. And like certain scientific things should last for a while, especially biology, stuff that's like true to life. But like physics is kind of gay, and for like 95% of people who have taken physics in college or just to some degree, for like 98% of people that have ever taken physics, their relationship to physics is that this is just some made up language where they're describing like nothing. They're describing the way that theoretical things they're describing the way that things interact with each other in a theoretical way. There's like the 2% of people that physics is useful because they understand it all, and then they're like, that's helpful in describing what I'm going to do. It describes the way that things happen, and so like I'm sure that Elon Musk uses physics, but I would be interested, or just people who are in the upper echelon, they're like building rockets or something, they're actually making shit physically. For those people, I would be interested to figure out how they actually apply physics. Because as far as I know, I took like 3 physics classes in college, and it's just kind of like a language, it's a made up language. It's kind of bullshit, because it's just describing like the air, or like stuff that's already happening, or like putting it into a different language. It's helpful for someone, but for people who just took it in college, like 98% of the world, that their relationship to physics is like, this is just a fake language that I had to learn, because like it does not help me in real life at all. There's no application. So I just feel like physics in some senses is kind of bullshit. It's a culty, campy thing that some people get excited about. It's like fan fiction, physics, for most of us, most of the world. That's all that it amounts to. It's fan fiction, it's theory, it's pseudoscience. Physics is pseudoscience because it's just popular to a group of people. That's why it's interesting at all. It's like there's a big group of people that really invest in it, they really swear by it, or they might identify themselves to it, or they like to get nerdy into it. They like to put on maybe they're not putting on a costume, but like a way of being, a characterizing. They might like to get nerdy or geeky around physics, to be like, I actually like physics, or when they do physics in college, like nerdy kids in whatever college that are like, I actually like to get nerdy and like physics. People that, I mean, like physics, if you're a physics professor that's taking it a step too far, like please stop that, because that's just I mean, now you're the guy that's taking the blame. It's just like hierarchyism, elitism, or like, I mean, I don't know what the word for it is, like aristocracy. The word for it is like hieratic. That's the adjective for hierarchy, like. And people don't know the word hieratic. I'm talking about levels to things. Hieratic in contrast to demotic. Demotic, 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 which is for the masses, which is like the common people. That's the flat. That's socialism. Capitalism is hieratic. And what am I saying? What was I saying was hieratic? Was physics, I don't know. Physics is so, I mean, that's so higher. The physics professor, the world is so hieratic, where it's like, we need the leader guy, we need the top guy, the alpha. The world, that's so fucking annoying. It's the same as I was saying in the last episode about like lack of competition. The world doesn't want to admit competition. We want to defer to one guy, where it's like, now it's not a competitive atmosphere in terms of gift giving, because everybody does it on the same day, instead of, but if we did it on every day, then it might result in this matter of one-upsmanship, where it might be competitive, where it's like, I gave a gift to you, now, you might feel some pressure to give a gift back to me. We are like, we don't want to deal with all the pressure of that. Let's just all be the same and give our gifts on the same day, or just like on holidays. No, we have days where we do it. That way it's not competitive. And then like what results is, for some reason, the day that's like the ultimate gift giving day is like, there's a guy that, of course, in the name of all authoritarianism and hierarchies everywhere and all capitalism, of course there's a main top guy, the alpha, that we look to in order to make it so that it's okay for us to have the day, to make it not competitive at all, you know, to make it not competitive. Now we're all the same. We're all the same in the eyes of Santa because he's like the god of gift giving. You know what I mean? And that's the fucking way it is. And then you're all the same in the eyes of the physics professor, the guy, King Nerd, the Nerd Lord, the main guy. The guy that. So what does the physics professor take the blame for that makes it uncompetitive? He makes it that all the people that attend his classes are all students, but that's like one of the, like, none of them have the authority. But that's one of those things that actors in Hollywood used to do to us, is like, we are all their students, we're the ones learning from them. That's why, like, it was easier for them to make movies when we all believed in it. We don't believe in Hollywood anymore. We don't believe in their narrative that they are so much more special than us to get to speak down to us. And when all these people come out in recent years, like just the nation in general, popularly speaking, we're like, hey, Hollywood doesn't have the right to dictate anything to us about politics or whatever. And we're so like righteous about it now. We're like, oh yeah, well, we get to stand up and say we don't have to listen to them. And the reason that we come out and say that is because for years and years and years, we basically did listen to them. So it's like, you know, and we don't go back and give them credit for having all of those years where it's like, oh, they were pulling the wool over our eyes. Like, oh, we did think that at least a little bit for a while. Where, I mean, we certainly weren't giving a voice to the opposing views of it. It's like attacking them for giving us politics. For very many years, the celebrities and whoever were allowed to say politics to us, and we're like, oh yeah, these are the people we should listen to, because like they were the authorities, and like it just got to a point where the competition of acting person to person just in the world became undeniable, and we all have to outact each other, like, so that the celebrities in Hollywood, they don't get to take the blame for this isn't a competition. We just are all the children that don't have to have any expectations or pressure about it. We just look to the people who take on the burden of acting, because it's like, oh, it's something that we all do, but like these people do it so much better than everybody else. And like, so it's just like really functional. Very functional for all of us for very many years to just listen to actors or listen to any authority figure. It's the same with physics. We like to give physics to the physics professors and to academia, and there's all of these school subjects where it's like we get to remain kids forever, just the world in general, the general population. We get to remain kids forever because academia is taking the blame for all this shit. And I feel like there will come a point where there might come a point just because of the ubiquity of information of physics, where it's like the availability of physics classes or principles, or just watching short videos of math solutions or physics solutions online is kind of satisfying and kind of entertaining. I not to everybody, and you probably wouldn't believe me saying that if you like don't get into physics or math at all, but it's like I don't really like math that much, but it's satisfying to watch somebody go through a like algebra solution, a long one, and like cancel shit out, and then it arrives at some simplified answer. It's kind of entertaining. And basically physics and math is coming at you in way more ways than like is available to consume and produce for you, more so now than it ever has before. And so like the threshold for the average person is getting more competitive, getting more competitive with like academia and the hieratic institutions, the people that are at higher levels of shit, to the point that we might eclipse that, and then we'll start shitting on like, oh yeah, well, historians don't have the right to tell us anything about history the same as we do like actors. They don't have. We make our own stories. I mean, we did the same thing with CNN and whatever. Now we all make the news. Like CNN doesn't do it because they had to standardize. We're like, that's bullshit, because we found the news within ourselves. Because of like the competition of it became inevitable through the like online, we're all out newsing each other. You know what I mean? So now it becomes a point where there isn't just like the main guy at the top of it. And so like, could the same thing happen with Jesus? I would say basically yeah, because he's like a god. he's the god of defeating death and the god of he's of your sins. He's like the god of history. He's like the god of the past, because all of us die and we are subject to the past. We're below the past. The past is better than us because we died in some senses. So it's like Jesus defeated death. He's never subject to the past like the rest of us, and that's why we measure everything by his timeline. And could that go away? Yeah, because it's kind of like the same way that we had Poseidon, the god of the sea, and people actually believed in that at a time, but they only believed in that at a time where the world hadn't mapped all of the seas of the world. So we had this large area of undefinability, of uncertainty with regard to the sea, where people are like, what the fuck happens out at sea? Or like, what are the ends of it? But then it got to the point, like technologically speaking, where we developed new gods that replaced the old gods, and those new gods are like the internet, or just like airplanes that we can map. We see where all of the seas are. It takes all of the mystery out of it. It takes like the godliness out of it, the undefinability, the confusing, like somebody knows so much more than me in this area. Like we don't need Poseidon, the god of the sea, the guy who standardizes us not knowing something, standardizes some area of undefinability. Like once we break all of that down and start to define all of it, define the seas, we don't need Poseidon anymore. Is part of the reason. I mean, like a lot of those gods, I mean, I don't know. I guess that doesn't work for everything. Poseidon, the god of the sea, is the example I use for that all the time when I brought this up before. I gotta do another one. Because it's not like we've understood time. Nah, that's not like the best analogy. We haven't understood time, and then there's like Kronos, the god of time. It's not like we've understood that. It's not, and so like Kronos isn't still alive. He isn't still with us. We haven't mapped the borders of time. But in some senses, it's like once we define death, if we recode our DNA to live forever, we won't need Jesus, the God of the past, anymore, or something like that. And so like we'll find it all within ourselves. You know, some technology will come along that replaces Jesus, I believe. It might take like 200, 300 years, but I mean, it'll happen. Hopefully we keep progressing. Or society will just devolve into shittiness because because we don't have a high enough birth rate or whatever, like, or just people aren't motivated enough. I mean, I think that people are tired, they're exhausted, they had a hard day at work and shit like that. Well, I go to work or whatever, you know. Yeah, well, I don't think about any of that shit because I go to work, son. I ain't got time for any of that. Boy, what you talking now? That sounds like a whole bunch of horse shit. I like to say whore shit for some reason. I guess it's kind of sexist. I don't say horse shit. I say like whore shit. Oops. That's horse shit. It's like, it's sexist to bring that when mostly it's like, I guess that's not even the word. That's just what the word that I thought that it was. Because the environment I come from hates women, and they're like, no, it's not horse shit, it's horse shit, because of all that shit that whores, not that women are whores, like, it's so sexist, calling women whores, or like, I mean, saying that whores are valid, I'm cutting this part out. Anyway, saying that whores are valid, I just made it sexist. I made it sexist within me calling it sexist. I made it so much more sexist. It's bad to call women whores. It's bad. Bad. I have to leave it in. I have to leave my mistakes in. I have to be mistaken. I have to fail. I'm such a loser. And I just need to be a winner. But being a winner kind of involves, like, being a capitalist a little bit. I'm sorry, comedy scene, if you're watching. They are so socialist. I'm sorry, but, like, being a winner means being a capitalist. Not that I'm, like, being a winner. It's just, like, you have to secure the environment. And you have to set it apart. You have to make it its own thing. I'm saying we need more pseudo-history because, like, all of this shit comes along to standardize the narrative these people come along like history happened this way. That's all bullshit. That's all it's pseudo history to say that there's one. Like, history is especially fake. It's faker than science or physics. History is worse. That should be the first thing to go, because the idea that there's this one narrative, the only one narrative that there is like just the timeline of events and like, why is it interesting that this happened after this? That we never go into that, as I've mentioned a couple times today. But chronicalism, just chronicle the time and like, why did this happen after this? That realness of that's more interesting. The story that we create, like, oh, there's this story and then this happened. I mean, like, it's so many different accounts of things. There's no one history, but we make it one standardized history. Like, this is the authority, this is the narrative, this is the one thing. It's too many alphas. I mean, not too many alphas, too few of alphas. And it's a churchy concept where it's like winner take all. There's one alpha, and Christians, in my experience, they do get into that, where they're like, there's one alpha, and if you're not, it's not supposed to be a competition because it's winner take all. One guy already won, his name is Jesus, and they disseminate that, I think is the right term. They disseminate that idea to their churches, where they make the pastor, like the Jesus figure, is winner take all. Is one guy. You definitely listen to this guy. He is the authority. The authoritarianism, where it's like, now it's not a competition and everybody in the congregation is not. It is not a competition. We are losers in comparison to like the pastor or whatever. And it's kind of like that. I just want more relative winners and losers. See, you're relatively. I'm a winner every day. I'm a loser every day. And I'm an alpha every day, I'm a beta every day, or something. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't be a beta. I'm a beta sometimes, I'm an alpha sometimes. Whatever happened to that? Where's that in the world? I'm a winner sometimes, I'm a loser sometimes. It's like, if you're a loser, you're entirely a loser. Because people don't want to get into the competition. They don't want to get into relative truth. It's a world that wants to stay in objective truth. We listen to the authority. And if you start to make up past events that don't align with the very important science of history, because it's a social science, because like all these people come up with hypotheses, the very important whatever, if you come up with like an account of things that doesn't align with the official narrative, then you're just making shit up. It's just like a world that doesn't allow for alternative narratives. They want one narrative in the same way they want one guy to be winner take all. They want one narrative to be winner take all. It happens just in your regular life amongst your peers. Your peers, or like the group of people, it has to be a group narration too a lot of the time. But like, religion definitely informs and has basically created the idea that we need to have one history. It's as a result of religion. I would say most directly of all of them, it's as a result of Christianity. The idea that we need to have one history because religions make it that there's one story among its participants. That's like a community. You have the safety because you all have the same story. That's the way that we do it in this world. Where it's like history became this, it started out as this campy, stupid thing. I mean, it's a stupid fucking thing to begin with. It's just history, it's just the word histoire, which was just a story or a tale. It just used to be a regular ass word. That's what's so interesting about history, is that it created, this is one of the finest institutions in learning is history, when it was just a word 700 years ago. And nobody was like, I mean, I don't know. They've been creating history in different places probably for a large portion of history or whatever. And it's like, kind of what I'm arguing is that history it shouldn't be called that. It shouldn't be called a story. It should be called like chronicalism. It should just be an ordering of events if you really care about it. Because people always vouch for it by saying like, we need it in order to learn mistakes we made in the past to do better in the present. And that's true, but we should do that person to person. We should find the history within ourselves. Same as cryptocurrency, you are the bank. Cryptocurrency made it so that you find the bank within yourself. You don't have to rely on big banking, big standardized corporate banks that are not you, that they decide what's happening with your funds ultimately. cryptocurrency made it so that all of that got decentralized, and then they gave the bank to you. Right now, we live in a state of things where there has been made no cryptocurrency in terms of history or in terms of a number of academic subjects that get to stand as a monopoly because we live in a world where we've been told that you're supposed to listen to the educators, listen to the authorities, and like all kinds of different areas, and then we break down specific ones at certain times, and that's why that's interesting. Is like at which time. What came first? Did we kill celebrity first? Did we kill Hollywood first? Or did we kill CNN first? And then, like, what does that say about the way that the world is evolving? Which happened first? Like, what it says is that all of us figuring out that we are actors and, like, that skill is not just present in the select few, because we all have to stay relevant and keep up with conversation just person to person, and it has to be in line with popular conversation just in the world in order for it to be, like, I don't know, in order for you to stay social and shit like that. Like, we are part of the competition whether we want to admit it or not. The old train of thought. The horseshoe. I call where Ohio State plays, it's the horseshoe. It's not the horseshoe. That's what I call it. For where all the whores go. All those whore Ohio State fans. They are so... I don't know. Ohio State, I mean, that's all right. That's all right, I guess. History, I'm talking about the history... I'm saying we need to find the history within ourselves. The same as, but that technology has not been made available to us, so we're like, oh, see, that's possible now. But the thing about history is that it's kind of like the news. It's kind of like a CNN one, where it's like, that's just something where we all start talking like, oh, history's bullshit. It's the same as CNN. Like, well, it's fake news. You know, history is pseudo-history. And pseudo whatever is better than the original, the standardized thing in a lot of cases. I mean, in the eyes of history, in the eyes of time. According to time will make it that shit dies, that shit disintegrates. In the eyes of time, pseudo is better than the original thing because it devolves into disintegrated instances, it devolves into pseudo instances. It doesn't stay as the standardized thing. Pretty much in all cases, like when something dies, it disintegrates, you know? And so that, like, Hollywood died, it disintegrated into well, now we live in pseudo celebrity world, pseudo fame, where it's like fame doesn't exist anymore. It used to be in a certain place. I've used this example a bunch of times throughout my podcast, whatever. But just not in these exact words, why I bring it up again. But like pseudo history is better than history. Relative truth is better than objective truth. That's what I argue for. It's the same as like destandardized religion is better than standardized religion. Ultimately, like we should have every day is gift giving, not the one day for gift giving. It should decentralization happens regardless, and would be more interesting to me what decentralizes first, because that says something about what we value and what actually is meaningful, or like what we're taking on and like what we are processing, what we are digesting as a society is made evident if you just chronicled everything rather than tried to make it like tried to make it about like memorable people or but like what I'm trying to say is that history should be found within ourselves. That should be an easy one to disintegrate because it's like the news. It's like CNN, where it's like we all have the news within ourselves and we can broadcast on our social media or on Twitter, post anything we want. Like, this is the news in my life or in the world. Like, my take on the news is the news. We are better than CNN because it's just like much larger sample size. It gives you more accurate data. And that's what the internet gave to us. Like, in terms of the news, there's such smaller a sample size with CNN. It's like, decided on by such a smaller group of people, and so like it's subject to agendas more, or like, and so with a larger sample size like Twitter, where it's like everybody is bouncing a bunch of ideas off of each other with regard to a story. You get lots of information with a larger sample size. The truth comes out. It's more realistic, and it's delivered to you faster on Twitter and through our own social media. We deliver the news faster. We have so much more a competitive edge in the news. So we became the news. We got rid of standardized news. We got rid of the authoritarianism structure in that area. And we got to do it with history. Like, and history is just like, oh, do you fucking realize how stupid history is? That we're like, oh, it's one story. It's the same thing as that. It's not one story. That's fake news, because it's thousands of stories all the time. Like, at any one point in history, the 1600s, there's thousands of stories going on at one time as history. But basically, like the year 1571, there's like 10 events that might ever reach the surface, and all in terms of history, because there's one narrative that's like, they only record events that are specific to that one narrative. Does history the one thing as we do it now? And academia is like, this is what history is. It's this one thing. And like, that's bullshit. Because, and it just happened, just like in the past week, we have a million different accounts for what that week was. The idea that we would say, oh, it was one thing, is just a world that is afraid of competition, basically. We're like, oh, if we let it be about relative truth, I mean, history is losing its luster regardless because of the things I'm describing. I mean, the internet is going to get rid of history. See history, and so what I'm saying is, like, it just creates pseudo-history. Like, make shit up. It's fake anyway. People crave what's fake. And so, like, the same as, like, Harry Potter is a really good fictional story that somebody just made out of nowhere. And, like, that's pseudo-history, because it's not real history that happened. And that's the shit that people like. It's a new creative story that runs counter to the narrative, the real narrative, in a way that it is able to materialize, like stories that standardize themselves, like the kids in the movie Kids, that they are the story of they are all bonded by their skateboarding. Like, that's what brought them together. That's what you need to do in a world that makes it all about stories, or like, there is the one story and we have to listen to the authorities on it. People everywhere in their own little pockets come up with their own identities in comparison to, like, religions like Christianity that put that pressure on the rest of the world to do that same thing, rather than have a world where it's all like one big community. For some reason that doesn't work. I mean, of course it wouldn't. Of course it wouldn't. Of course competition exists. So, like, there's nothing wrong about that, about the identity groups, and that Christianity puts pressure on the rest of the world. It might even be better. I'm not sure. It might even be more progressive. Might be a good thing that Christianity puts that pressure. I'm not sure. I feel like they do it in too monopolizing of a way, where it's like the world could do with a bit more relative truth, rather than it's too big a group of people believes in objective truth, and it makes other people need to find some sort of objective truth if they're not part of a religion, and, like, if not, like, kill yourself, or if not, like, you're nothing in some regards, because, like, you don't have a story. But I'm saying it's kind of like pseudo. I mean, the movie Kids is fictional, technically speaking, and it's technically pseudo history, but it's so real that it's like his history, and that's when things get interesting. That's when things don't have to get to that point to be interesting. That's when things are the most interesting. Is like the movie Kids. When they when it's like, well, it's technically fiction, but it's technically pseudo history, but it's history, and it's undeniable that it is, and it flies in the face of history. It shits on history, because, like, something like that, a group of New York City street kids shouldn't gain traction in some way that it's like they have a documented historical presence forever and ever, just because of, like, the fame of the movie. And, like, if the movie wasn't that famous, then it wouldn't be so much like a forever and ever thing. But it's a world that likes to do it like the past and forever. So I'm saying that's pseudo-history. Like, Harry Potter is pseudo-history, but we like that so much. We love the fake, and especially when it's real. It's like, if Harry Potter didn't sound like a believable real story, we wouldn't like it at all. It's like, it almost sounds like it's almost like nonfiction to the power that Harry Potter has risen to in the world. Like the story's so popular, it's like become real to us. Like that line between fake and real, that's more interesting than some group of old farts, historians, historiographers, whatever, collectors of data, to decide like this was the one rigid system for this is history, and you have to learn it in order to know it at all. You have to just recursively remember something that somebody already knows in order for you to be practicing it. Where it's like history, if you're really practicing it, should involve creating histories, creating stories that go down in history as some alternative to the past. And like that's when it's like to me it's more interesting when it isn't like a religious thing, because religion is easy, that they get together, they make a big they make a big story, and it's like you just have to go to church and you're a part of it, and it's like it doesn't get I mean, it's just like that's just the standard, like that's just popular. But like Harry Potter, somebody makes a story alternative to it, I feel like that's what people crave more than reality. I feel like Christianity, that's just kind of reality. What's fake is like when somebody makes their own, they grow their own story. And that's the thing, is like they're forever. The way that we use the word forever, like the way that some people use it, there's a lot of people that are in major religions that they talk about forever, and they're like they know what it is. Forever should be a swear word, basically, because forever should be a swear word, because it's really disrespectful to talk about it like it's like you know what it is. That's forever and ever and ever. Like, you can't say forever. I don't think you should even say it, because it's like, what are you talking about? There's no evidence. Forever? What's the evidence for, what is that? You shouldn't be allowed to say it, because that includes so much time that you're saying, like, just even using the word, like, you know what it is, or infinity. It's disrespectful. That should be more a swear word, like something that we have that little authority over. Forever. You know nothing about it. You have no evidence for any 1 second of it into the future. Like, we say forever, and it takes away from the future. It takes away from the past. We have history for, like, there is one historical thing. The past is relative truth. It's so many disintegrated stories. It should be more like the future and the past, so that you can talk about, like, how it relatively comes upon us and relatively leaves us. Like, it's just a series of events. And, like, that would be a religion all its own, if we were that much more interested. It should be like, we shouldn't talk about forever, or like, I'm going to be in heaven forever, or my eternity, which a lot of people do. Or some people believe undyingly that, like, they know what forever is. You shouldn't go there. You should start by saying, like, I know what the future looks like, because the future isn't just forever, it's also what's right in front of you, like, more so. Like, we should make it that history should be given to every person. Every person should be like, I own history. It shouldn't be given to academia. That one is an easy one. It kind of just takes saying, like, my history is the history, and it shouldn't be decided by anybody or whatever. I mean, I guess, like, don't worry about what people think or whatever. Don't worry about going down in history, and then the history will be your own. Like, don't give a fuck about academia. Just within your own heart and your own life, say history's bullshit. Those academics that love it are idiots, and fuck that. It's my story is just as good as anybody else's, no matter what. Nobody has to say that it was. It doesn't have to be memorable. It doesn't have to go down in history for it to be a thing. It was already valid. We are already relevant. It's already good. Or whatever it is. Find the history within yourself the same way that you find the bank within yourself with the cryptocurrency. Don't leave it up to some big corporate, to big history. Don't leave it to big history. It should be but like it would be, the future would become the past would become its own religion, or like a big group of people would identify themselves to that, if it wasn't for, like, religion kind of takes the sting out of it, and they try to make it the standardized ass thing, which is like the most unstandardized thing ever, is the future and the past. Because, like, the past is more documented, yeah, but it's still, like, so many stories going on at once, you couldn't ever, really say it was one thing. It helps if you like record yourself, then you have more of a say. If you recorded it, and so like now people record themselves, you have more of a say because you have a permanent reference for like this is something that happened historically. There are ways of telling history, you know, that are better than others. It's not all just a big anarchical mess. There are ways of like records help keep track of it and help keep us sane in the area of history, but like religion, like Christianity comes along, they'll say like their history is one thing, like basically, and it's up to Jesus, and like the future is one thing, eternity in heaven, you know. They like to standardize it as one thing, whereas like the future especially is so you don't ever get to say any objective truth with regard to the future ever. That's you have no evidence for it. There's no evidence. That is the unevidenced world. That is the uncertain. What happens in the future? Sorry, you don't. I mean, you might have some predictions, but it's that area is definitely unstandardized, and I would argue that. I mean, whatever. Get all unstandardized, decentralized shit. Tear it down, destroy it, disintegrate it. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. You're welcome. And Auf Wiedersehen now. Sayonara. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for stopping by. Like and subscribe. And like it and subscribe to it. Bye. Or don't. But do please. So, yeah.